The next thing on my list is May December, which again is another hugely talked about film of the year and one of the more anticipated films I think for award viewers of upcoming award season, and the fact that this is one of the more prominent Netflix releases as well. And I think you have another situation here of just like pure star power associated with it. You have both Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore in leading roles in this movie, and that was really the hook for me. I didn't really know much else about it, but May December is actually loosely based on a real story. It's based on the life of Mary Kay Letourneau, who was a registered sex offender because she pleaded to 2 counts of rape because she had a relationship with one of her students. She was a school teacher. She was
Mm.
34 years old, and she had a relationship and had sex with a 12-year-old at the time. They had a sexual relationship, and so she ended up doing some prison time. But the real twist of it all is that her and the child, once she was released from prison, actually got married. They actually forged a relationship together. They had children. They had an entire relationship with each other. It's a really, really crazy story. And she actually just passed away a few years ago. She passed away in 2020. She was super young, 58 years old. But this is just like one of the more wild and crazy things that I think you can read about. And so this movie is loosely based off of that. You have Julianne Moore playing the character who is adapting the Mary Kay Letourneau individual. And Natalie Portman's character is an actress, and she's basically coming to the home of Julianne Moore's character to observe her and her husband and their relationship because she's going to eventually play her in a movie. So Julianne Moore's character Gracie, she's married. The student that she has sex with, his name is Joe, played by Charles Melton, and Natalie Portman playing Elizabeth. She comes to just observe them because she's just trying to get as much information as possible to prepare herself for this movie, since she will be playing portraying Gracie in an upcoming film. And I got to say that this is a wild film. This is a crazy crazy movie, especially knowing that this a lot of this probably did go down in the fashion that they sort of paint this picture with. And it's one of the year's best movies just based off of the performances alone, and I think what Todd Haynes as a director does here, he's able to bring something out of these actresses that I just really haven't seen in quite a long time. Julianne
Mhm.
Moore and Todd Haynes have done like 5 films together, so they're frequent collaborators. Natalie Portman recently worked on a film with Todd Haynes as well. I think it was Vox Lux, came out a few years ago. And what they both do here is just astounding and incredible. And so much of what's happening with this movie, it's just kind of about the insidious nature of people that from the outside can come in and destroy your family and destroy that structure that you've built.
Mm.
Even though Gracie as a person, it's like you've done some really, really questionable things. And yes, you did serve your time. And now you and this, this husband of yours, Joe, now that you've established this relationship in this family and you seem happy, all seems well, but you have to question just like at which point out of which this relationship was established, like at which point did we really have the conversation that this was okay and that this was something that didn't have hugely adverse effects on Joe as a young boy who at the time was super super young and had to
Mhm.
probably just go along with this decision that we don't really know if he was actually down with or not. And I think that brings out something in Charles Melton that I didn't see coming. Charles Melton, he's been in Riverdale, and what he has to come and do here in this movie is just so astounding and so emotional. And he easily steals the film entirely. He gives the best performance without a doubt. That's saying a ton when you are acting alongside Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman, celebrated actresses in
For
their own
sure.
right, Academy Award winning actresses.
Mhm.
Charles Melton here, because he is playing this individual who has somewhat of a sense of stunted growth. He is still so young. He's only about 30, I think 38 years old by the time we meet him again in this movie. And he has kids that are like going off to college. They're graduating high school. And that's not unusual. There are parents out there who have kids at young ages. And so they might be, a little bit closer in age than some others. But when you know the circumstances and how this relationship came about, it's just
Mhm.
so crazy to see how he slowly but surely finds this idea across the course of the movie where you see him start versus where you see him in. And he gives, I think, probably two of the best and most well acted scenes I've seen this year in any movie. It's really astounding to just see what he did here. Did not see it coming. Again, he was in Riverdale, and that's not necessarily a negative towards Riverdale, but I think he had to play just like one type of character. He had to be a bad guy. He just was, kind of a physical presence more so than anything. Here, you absolutely see the acting chops, but outside of that, Natalie Portman, great performance. There's a monologue that she gives towards the end of the movie that is just like it's a showstopper. Julianne Moore is making so many interesting choices here that I actually really like because there's a campy element to this film as well. It's intentionally campy. The music is supposed to be campy. It's supposed to elicit certain
Hmm.
responses. There's some soap opera sort of tones underneath it. There's a lot of really weird over the top things that happen, even some comedic line deliveries that I think you're supposed to laugh at, but they don't totally register if you're not fully locked in and paying attention. But they have to just go to so many places. And again, when you just like really examine this relationship between these three people, Natalie Portman coming in, observing, trying to get as much information as possible, what she's willing to do to get that information, which puts her in quite a negative light, I would say. And then Julianne Moore's character, Gracie, when you understand just like how she's established this family dynamic and this family structure, and you kind of realize she's the person in control. And then lastly, Charles Melton, is Joe, who is just, I mean, just doing so many different things, so many different ranges, and has to go so many different places. It's really unlike anything I've seen from a performance standpoint. So I would absolutely recommend it again. I think it's one of the best. It's one of the best films of the year for me, and I know it's getting a lot of praise and recognition at this moment. And we're going to talk about it again in a second with the Golden Globes. But I'll be interested to see how far it goes as well, because it's a film that can be divisive as well, depending on how you may walk away with it, and the subject matter itself.
Man, shout out to Netflix. They got another one. No, that's amazing. Charles Melton. Wow. I was not expecting you to hear to talk him up like that, man. I'm very excited to see his performance in the movie now, for sure. Especially, I love monologues. I just something about him, man. If it's a really good monologue, can it can do a lot for a film, at least for me. So I definitely can't wait.